Welcome to the Strengthening Health Service Response to Family Violence, Module 1, A Shared Understanding. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. My name's Karen Todd and I'm the manager of this initiative. Today I also have with me Peter Kelly, our Regional Liaison Officer, and Alex Cowie, our Workforce Liaison Officer. We are excited to have you online with us. Module 1, Family Violence, A Shared Understanding, is designed for our staff and volunteers to build an understanding of family violence across the whole health service. It should take you approximately 30 minutes to complete this online course. We hope that you find the course useful and interesting. In this session, we will discuss the definition of family violence, the prevalence, and explore the impact across the lifespan. We'll look at the drivers of family violence and how to sensitively inquire and respond to possible disclosures or where you have concern for a patient or colleague. We will also look at the support available for our staff and volunteers experiencing or those that may be impacted by family violence. Before commencing this training, it is important to take a brief moment to acknowledge and reflect on the devastating impact that family violence can have in our community. Family violence is a complex and sensitive topic. You may feel emotionally triggered by some of the content in this training. If you need to stop at any time during the training, please do so. We encourage you to contact your manager, the Employee Assistance Program through Staff Care, or talk with someone you trust if you need support. If you feel uncomfortable undertaking this course, please leave the training by clicking on the Stop Now. Otherwise, please continue on to the next slide. The module you are currently undertaking forms part of the Strengthening Health Service Response to Family Violence initiative. This animation gives an overview of the initiative and why family violence is a health issue. If this video opens in Internet Explorer, please copy and paste the link into Chrome to be able to watch the video. Please also be aware that this video sits in YouTube. Once this video finishes, it will automatically commence playing a new video. Therefore, please exit the YouTube window at the end of this animation and then return to the training. Please also note there are a further 2 videos in this module. Remember to do the same for these if needed. Now please click on the image to watch the animation. This is the legal definition as per the Family Violence Protection Act of 2008, Victoria. This is used by our courts to determine if someone is entitled to a family violence intervention order. It is important to note that sometimes family violence can be called by other names, such as domestic violence or intimate partner violence. It can be any one of these behaviours, and it is not just physical. The key word in the definition is fear. It is the use of fear to ensure that one person retains power and control within the relationship. It is also important to note how the definition encompasses the exposure and impact of family violence on children. Not all types of violence are criminal offences, for example, emotional abuse. However, by inclusion in this definition, they are still grounds for seeking an intervention order. The Act takes a very broad understanding of family. It includes extended kinship structures in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and a carer of the person with a disability if that carer is in a family-like relationship. The key message is that family violence causes fear by exerting power and control. Family violence is complex. It occurs throughout the lifespan. It affects girls, boys, women, and men, and it can be intergenerational. There are many types of abuse. All are fundamental violations of human rights and are unacceptable. There are also many different perpetrators, and not all of these are men. Family violence can occur in all kinds of families and in family relationships extending beyond intimate partners to parents, siblings, and blood relatives. It includes violence perpetrated by older relatives, by younger family members, against a same-sex partner, or from a carer towards the person they are looking after. Psychological trauma is commonly experienced by people affected by family violence, from both current and past experiences. We must always be mindful of this because you never know who may be affected or traumatized. The key message is that family violence is common, complex, and may be affecting our patients, consumers, and colleagues.
Hi, it's Peter Kelly. We now move on to explore the lived experience of family violence and discuss groups in our community that are at heightened risk. This video presents a series of personal stories from victim survivors of family violence. While these stories can be very confronting, they provide an insight into the lived experience of family violence. Please click on the image to watch the video. The following slides provide information on specific groups in our community that are at higher risk of experiencing family violence. These groups include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women, young women, pregnant women, women with disabilities, women experiencing financial hardship, women and men who experience abuse or witness domestic violence as children. This is due to overlapping forms of discrimination, marginalisation, and vulnerability. Indigenous Australians experience higher rates of family violence compared with non-Indigenous Australians. Based on statistics from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, 2018, Indigenous Australians are twice as likely to be killed by their current or previous partner compared with non-Indigenous Australians. Indigenous women are 32 times more likely to be hospitalised due to family violence as compared with non-Indigenous women. Indigenous children are 7 times more likely to be abused or neglected than non-Indigenous children. Lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender Australians also experience alarming rates of family violence. 11 out of every 100 Australians are of diverse sexual orientation, sex or gender identity. The research tells us that same-sex couples experience similar rates of intimate partner violence as heterosexual couples. Transgender and gender-diverse people are likely to experience even higher rates of intimate partner violence. People in same-sex relationships are at a similar level of risk of intimate partner homicide as people in heterosexual relationships. A Victorian LGBT study found 1/3 of respondents had been in abusive relationships. 80% of that abuse was psychological and 60% involved physical abuse. Some examples of abusive behaviours experienced by LGBT people include threatening to tell their family and friends about their sexual orientation or gender identity. the use of homophobic and transphobic language. And finally, separating them out from the LGBT community. This section will explore the drivers of family violence and some of the myths that distort, minimise, excuse and perpetuate it. Let's Change the Story is a short video outlining how gender inequality underpins family violence. Please click on the image to view the video. To sum up what we just saw in the Let's Change the Story video, the drivers of family violence include the condoning of violence against women, men's control of decision making and limits to women's independence in public and private life, rigid gender roles and stereotyped constructions of masculinity and femininity, and finally, male-peer relations that emphasise aggression and disrespect towards women. Let's have a look at some of the common myths about family violence. Some examples of these myths are: why don't they just leave? It's not a widespread problem. Or it only happens in poor, uneducated families. Have you seen or heard some of these statements? They mainly focus on what the person experiencing family violence does not do, rather than questioning the perpetrator's behaviour. They distort, excuse, minimise and perpetuate family violence. It's important to reflect further on the question of why someone doesn't just leave family violence. The evidence indicates that 3 to 6 months post-separation is the most dangerous time for women and children to be seriously harmed, as the perpetrator has lost their power and control. In addition to the personal safety risk, there are also many other barriers to leaving, such as financial pressure, housing, legal challenges, and social isolation.
Hi, it's Karen back again. This section of the Module 1 leads us through how to best inquire and respond to our patients, consumers, or colleagues who may be experiencing or being impacted by family violence. If you have concerns that a patient, consumer, or colleague may be experiencing family violence, it is okay to ask them how they are. When inquiring or speaking about family violence with anyone, their ongoing safety is paramount. Conversations with the person should only be done when the person is alone, without their partner or other family members present, unless the person specifically requests or approves someone to be with them. International evidence suggests that asking these questions in a sensitive manner will not offend. On this slide, there are some suggested questions you may wish to use. You would need to choose a question that suits the situation and your relationship with the person you are asking. Remember, people have the right not to disclose if they are experiencing family violence. If the person denies family violence, accept the response without further questioning. But if you have serious concerns for their safety, consult with a social worker, health professional, or your manager. If someone discloses to you that they are experiencing family violence, here are some helpful responses, as well as highlighting some unhelpful responses. Helpful responses validate someone's experiences, provide support, and importantly, place control with the person disclosing. Unhelpful responses can blame the person experiencing family violence, can fail to understand the complexity of the issues, can judge the person as a poor parent, can diminish perpetrator responsibility, and lastly, may appear to offer support as conditional to the person leaving the relationship. If a patient consumer discloses to you that they are experiencing family violence, we recommend that you listen to them, Believe and validate what they are telling you by responding with one of the helpful responses from the previous slide. Importantly, support them to make their own decisions. If they would like further information and/or support, please seek advice from one of the following: your manager, a social worker, a nurse, or a doctor. If the above options are not available, it is recommended that you advise the person to contact the Orange Door during business hours, safe steps outside of business hours, or in an emergency, please call 000. To summarise, we are not expecting you to be a family violence expert. However, we are hoping the information provided will assist with how to inquire and respond sensitively.
Hi, it's Alex Cowie. This section of Module 1 discusses how to respond to our colleagues who are experiencing family violence, as well as the entitlements and support available to our staff and volunteers. We have new provisions in our enterprise agreements for family violence for all healthcare workers. Employees are entitled to 20 days per year for a full-time staff member or pro rata for a part-timer of family violence leave. This is separate from sick leave or annual leave. This leave can be used for things like medical or counselling appointments, meetings with a family violence specialist service, or court appearances. If you are supporting someone experiencing family violence, you can use your personal leave to support them with things like accompanying them to court or appointments, or caring for their children. We can also help you while you're at work with things like temporary relocation, different work times or duties, an escort to your car, or change to your work contact details. All managers will be completing the Workplace Manager training, so they are also aware of these provisions. In addition, we have family violence contact officers, as outlined on this slide. These contact officers are trained to support employees, volunteers, as well as managers where an employee is experiencing family violence. Please note that these contact officers are for staff assistants only, not for patients, and they are not counsellors or trained family violence specialists. However, they are trained to provide support and assist you to access your entitlements and link in with external services. For more details, there is a family violence workplace policy and procedure available on prompt. Please see the slide for details of where further information and support is available. It's not easy for someone to make a decision to disclose family violence. If one of your colleagues has disclosed to you that they are experiencing family violence, you should respect their confidentiality by not sharing any identifying information with anyone unless they give you permission to do so. You are supporting your colleague first and foremost by simply listening to them, believing them, allowing them to disclose their situation, and remain in control. You may also require support yourself when supporting a colleague. The family violence contact officers are available to provide you with information and advice. Working with and supporting anyone affected by family violence can have an impact. Make sure you take care of yourself and seek support when needed. These are some ideas as to where to access support. The key messages from this training are: family violence is common and it affects many people in our community. You do not need to be a family violence expert. Family violence is complex and affects people across the lifespan. A sensitive response is vital. There is support and assistance available for our staff, volunteers, patients, and consumers.
Thanks for taking the time to complete this online module. If you have any questions or would like to further discuss any of the content, please contact a member of the team as listed on the slide. If you would like to provide us with any feedback, please feel free to let us know. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge the following: the Royal Women's Hospital, Bendigo Health, and the Department of Health and Human Services. We'd also like to thank the Barwon Region Health Services, Colac Area Health, Hesse Rural Health, Lorne Community Hospital, Otway Health, and Barwon Health for their ongoing support and commitment to this initiative.